There are 135 investors in the financial markets. Out of these, 110 invested in shares, while 70 invested in bonds. How many investors invested in shares? Once you see this kind of question, know it's a Venn diagram question. And this type of Venn diagram is called Venn diagram of two categories. Reason being that it's only talking about shares and bonds. It's talking about two things. When it's talking about two things, it's called Venn diagram of two categories. To solve this, I'll draw two circles. Now these two circles, let one represent the first thing they talked about, which is share. Let the second one represent the second thing they talked about, which is bonds. Now, once you know this, sorry I did not greet you. Today, Academic Daddy is going to be teaching you everything you need to know on Venn diagram, how to interpret it and understand it. Now, back to it. Now, they said there are 135 investors in the financial market. Out of this, so 135 is the universal set. Universal sets, the set containing all other sets. The set of sets, 135, that is the totality. Now 135, now they say out of this 110 invested in shares. Now before you start looking at the number that invested in shares only, because this box is for only shares, this is for only bond, this is what they have in common. Before you start looking at these two, the first thing I want you to always look at is what they have in common. What they have in common. And this case, they gave you only for shares and for bonds. They did not give us what they have in common. Call it X. Now they say 110 invested in shares. That 110, they did not put only shares. Anything you're putting on this circle, the remaining circle, should be only for share. This is what they have in common. It's only so that when you do it now, since they did not tell you only, always subtract what they have in common. So I'll come and put 110 minus X. Now 70 invested in bonds, but they did not say 70 invested in bonds only. So I'll come and put 70 minus X. Now if you know this, to find the total number, that invested in this share and bonds, simply do what you have on this end equal to everything you have here. And that is 110 minus X plus X plus 70 minus X. 70 minus X. Now, they did not give us neither. The people that did not, like the number that did not engage in share or bonds. They did not give us that. So notice that if we're looking at this now, this will cancel this automatically. This will cancel this. And if that cancel it, we'll now collect like terms. So that we'll now have 110 plus 70 minus X. Now, if we know this is something as 180 minus X. Then 135. Now this is now the something as having minus X. 180 cross equality sign, it will now be 135 minus 180. Minus 180. And this is the something as minus X. If you remove 100 here, 100 here, you're left with 80 and 35. Remove 30 here, you're left with 50. Remove 5 here, you're left with minus negative 45. Divide both sides by minus 1. Now, Dividing both sides. Now dividing both sides by -1. Dividing both sides by -1. This will cancel this. You are left with x is equals to 45. So x is equals to 45. So I will now come and substitute. That means that what I have here is simply 45. Now to get what I have here is simply 110 minus 45. What I have here is simply 70 minus 45. So to answer the question said, how many investors invested in shares? So the number of investors that invested in shares is simply 110 minus 45. That's the number that invested in shares only. So when I do that, 40 out of 100 is 60. That means what is remaining here is 70. Now if I remove 5, it's remaining 65. So 65 investors invested in shares only. Then for bonds, when I come to this and I remove 45, 40 from 70 will be 30. Then if you remove 5, 25 invested in bonds only. So that's for a Venn diagram of two categories. So you need to know that in Venn diagram of two categories, for Venn diagram of two categories, for Venn diagram of two categories, the key is to first focus on what they have in common. And when they say only, and when the question say only, so when the question say only, you just plug in the value you have. Just plug in the value. Just plug in the value. And it says only. But when it did not, that is, you are given just a number and you are told 110 invested in shares. They did not put only. When it did not, subtract what they have in common. What they have in common from the given values. From the given values respectively.